Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. We are moving on in the subclass series onto the next subclass, which is the Oath of Redemption Paladin. So if you're new to the subclass series or to the channel in general, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the abilities in the subclass, and then we are going to see how the abilities improve on the base class, and we're going to rate the roleplay value, the combat value, and the overall class synergy based on how these abilities gained improve on the base class. So without any further ado guys, we're just going to jump straight into this and go on to the next Paladin subclass.
With Tenets of Redemption, it definitely becomes more of a peace-loving Paladin. Gives you in the first instance the Tenets of the Oath of Redemption hold a Paladin to a high standard of peace and justice. So kind of the anti-5e subclass, a very combat-oriented build with 5e. This is the one subclass that's like, maybe a little less combat. But the four tenets it gives you is peace, innocence, patience, and wisdom. Again, making smart decisions, making things in the eye of justice, only fighting when it seems like it's the correct choice in the outcome, maybe the outcome, not necessarily the most fun, but maybe if it's only the right way to do it, the correct way to time to do it, how this subclass seems to be built around. And that goes the same way when you look at the spells and stuff like Sanctuary, Sleep, Hold Person, does get counterspell, which people thought was kind of fun. That's like, all right, Paladin's throwing away a counterspell. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wall of Force, Hold Monster, so you can resilient. The I'm not going to try to butcher the name, but Resilient Sphere. Essentially, you're trying to a lot of these are remove things from combat.
Right.
Either hold them in place so they can't do stuff, or just literally like sap them if you're from other turns. It's you really prevent them from doing a lot of stuff.
Then at level 3, we're going to get your Channel Divinity options, as is normal. Being a Paladin, first you have the Emissary of Peace. Use your Channel Divinity to augment your presence with divine power. As a bonus action, you gain yourself +5 bonus to charisma persuasion checks for the next 10 minutes. The other option you get is called Rebuke the Violent. You can use your Channel Divinity to rebuke those who use violence immediately after an attacker within 30 feet of you deals damage with an attack against a creature other than you. You can use your reaction to force the attacker to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the attacker takes radiant damage equal to the damage it just dealt. On a successful save, it takes half as much damage. So, pretty nice way to make someone pay for hitting your friends, especially if it's a big attack. It says after the attack has dealt damage, you can decide if you want to do it. So if they're like, oh, your friend just got hit for 70 damage. All right, make a wisdom save to see if you take 70 back. So, pretty nice way to pop them back for that. Then at level 7, we have your aura, which is the aura of the Guardian. You can shield others from harm at the cost of your own health. When a creature within 10 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to magically take that damage instead of the creature taking it. This feature doesn't transfer any other effects that might accompany the damage, and this damage can't be reduced in any way. At 18th level, the aura increases to 30 feet. So just a way to help squishy people survive. Maybe you follow around someone who has a low health pool or someone who's damaged in combat to make sure that they're not going to die, and you can absorb a hit or two for them. Using your reaction to do so.
At level 15, you get Protective Spirit, which you get to regain 1d6 plus half your paladin level in hit points at the end of your turn in combat if you have less than half of your hit points and aren't incapacitated. So you can't be knocked out and heal yourself back up. That'd be a little silly. I like passive abilities. If you guys have been watching their things, I like passive abilities and versatility in my D&D characters. So I do like something you can use, just happens without you having to worry about it doing, and again, not have to worry about your action, bonus action, economy, all that kind of stuff. Again, but not super great because you have to wait until you get below half health, but does kind of work with the previous ability and kind of encourage you to take some of that damage, knowing that you can heal yourself back up from passive. So that's not too bad. Finally, at level 20, you do get Emissary of Redemption, which is definitely, I would say, the most peculiar, I think is a good word choice here, from among all of them. We had to do some rereading to verify something that Jameson caught while I was going over things originally. You do have resistance to all damage dealt by other creatures. So, all right. Whenever a creature hits you with an attack, they take radiant damage equal to half the damage you take from an attack. So, whatever damage they dealt, you take half, and they take a quarter of the original because they're it's half of half. But still, you're punishing them for hitting you. The other caveat to keep in mind here, which is important, why this makes this very peculiar, is if you attack a creature, cast a spell on it, or deal damage to it by any means other than this feature, neither benefit works against that creature till you finish a long rest. So you would take full damage from it again, and they would not take damage from your retribution retaliatory attack. The thing we had to notice, Jameson really noticed, is that this is not a triggered ability or a chosen to activate scenario. This is when you hit level 20, it just happens. It is a passive ability that just happens.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the time, you have resistance to damage at all time from everything.
That from creatures.
Creatures, yeah.
Which is most of the time when you're fighting against, right?
Unless like a trap of some sort, or falling damage. You still take full falling damage.
Layer actions, I guess.
Layer actions, yeah. But again, you're talking about the 5 to 10% of the time versus the 90%, 90+% of the time. But it's interesting. So you have to strategize this very, very well. We kind of had a little quick discussion after we noticed that of maybe like in a multi-target situation, like if you're fighting 3 things, you would have to focus, if you're going to attack at all, you would have to focus all your attacks on one target. That way the other 2 targets would still be affected by this ability. Right. Again, it really just makes it probably one of the more strategically heavy paladin subclasses to play because of that. But this is level 20, so
I mean, you could just go up, and Alex was kind of talking about this earlier, is you just use the help action as your action. If you're not going to cast a spell or something, you go stand next to somebody, help them out or whatever,
Yeah, go
or
help
dodge,
rogue,
or you just take the dodge action, and then
I help the rogue.
You could just take the dodge action, take disadvantage on attacks, and then that way you're not taking as much damage, which means you can absorb more damage from other people taking damage, and then he'd lay on hands yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely interesting. But with that, guys, those are all the abilities gained in the subclass. So we're going to move on to the rating section. And first up, we have the roleplay value. And of course, the asterisk that I always have to throw in here now is that when we are rating the RP value, we're already assuming you're, role-playing your background, your class, fantasy, history, all of your abilities, how you're using them and describing them and everything like that. We're already anticipating you doing that. It's not part of the score. When we're talking about the roleplay value, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, avoiding combat, non-combat scenarios, things of that nature, and how these abilities gained in the subclass are going to mechanically help with those interactions. So, not from just a thematic sense, from a more mechanical sense of the abilities, the RP value. And with this subclass, with the spells gained and your Channel Divinity option, like Emissary of Peace, can be definitely very RP use. We decided to go with a 3 out of 5 for here. There are several things that are definitely RP related, but we feel like the class is not super focused on the RP side. It's kind of a balance between combat and RP, so just a 3 out of 5 for the roleplay value.
On the combat side of things, especially we did our rereading and rereading that level 20 ability. The fact that it happens all the time is very interesting. So you're just taking half damage from creatures throughout your entire bit of being around. Being able to choose to take damage for somebody else if they need to is very helpful. Best of being a paladin, you got a D10 hit dice. You're going to have more health than anybody in the group, unless there's a barbarian on hand. And the fact that to go with that, the protective spirit helps you heal yourself once you do get below half. So it kind of rewards you for taking the damage in the first place, or helping keep friends that are just lower than you, even if you already are below half. Again, kind of works pretty well together in terms of keeping you and other people alive when working with the two. And then the Rebuke the Violent, to me, is the most on, like, besides the capability, is the most on-theme thing for the class. Just using, making them take damage, using your Channel Divinity to make them a wisdom saving throw, or they take radiant damage, equal damage, popping them back for what they just hit you for. It's very, very much interesting on the combat side of things. The fact that it's focused on like peace and choosing how you should do things, like wisdom. Should you be fighting this thing? Well, if you're not, then why were you doing this in the first place? Shame on you. Very judgmental. Paladin subclass. I made the joke to Jameson, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it in here. Think what you want. First thing come to my mind was, this is like Ned Flanders from Simpsons. If you ever watch Simpsons, I can just imagine Ned Flanders like, well, you should not ought have done that. That was very painful. That was very mean. You know, just that's the first thing that popped into my head was I just see Ned Flanders in his sweater vest and tie and glasses, like, yippee doodly, just hanging out, and that's what I get out of this. Oh, and number wise, we end up giving this a 4 out of the 5 possible flumps. Again, for all the things we just said.
Right. And one of the reasons we didn't rate it higher is just because, again, it's very top heavy, as most paladins are. But that being said, your, protective spirit is only triggered when you're below half health. And also, your level 20 ability takes it takes time to get to. So there's that.
And your channel divinity is only once per short rest.
Right.
So again, like you're limited to a lot of things that are more effective.
To be very limited in how you use that. And hope that it's, if you're rebuking the violent channel divinity, you're going to be hoping that it's the most damage that's going to be dealt in a turn,
You're hoping, but you don't know.
Right. Then lastly, we have the overall class synergy. And looking at that, the main things to synergize with Paladin is going to be, your spells, your channel divinity, you have stuff like lay on hands, things like that. And with this subclass, it's definitely interesting. Getting some of the spells can be very interesting, like with a lot of CC or combat utility. I mean, counterspell can completely change combats sometimes.
Sure, yeah.
And hold monster, hold person, stuff like that is always very good. Just ways to make life difficult for enemies is always interesting for sure.
Yep.
And your aura is always active, so that's nice. But that being what it is, it's only 10 feet until you're level 18. Again, higher levels. But overall, we decided to go with a 3.5 out of 5 on the overall class energy, and part of the reason of that is there is a little bit of a strange thing going on here where you want people to hit you.
Yeah.
So that they take radiant damage, but if you're level 20, that you want them to hit you so they take damage, but at the same time, you're going to be absorbing damage from your party, so you're going to be probably low on health a lot of the time and regaining, 1d6 plus half your paladin level. At level 20, you're regaining like 13-ish health per turn if you're below half. But when you're level 20, you're probably going to be taking large amounts of damage at a time. We're talking 20, 30 damage per hit, probably, at least. So if you're fighting big things, it's not, very common that you're taking less than 20 damage a turn, I would say, assuming you're getting hit. So if you're taking, 30 or 40 or 50 damage in a turn, and you want something to hit you, yes, you're resistant to it, whatever, but absorbing damage for allies and stuff can get a little wonky, because it's like it wants you to get in there and get hit, but at the same time, you're going to be absorbing damage for allies, or have the ability to, I guess. So a little bit of strangeness there on the synergy. So we, again, went with a 3.5 out of 5. Just because there's a little bit of wonkiness there, we feel like. And also, some of the uses of absorbing damage and dealing damage by getting hit are not, like, super synergistic. Yes, they have some uses, but it's not going to be, like, overtly synergistic with your base class abilities, so to say. Other than lay on hands, I would say it's probably the biggest thing, because you're going to absorb a lot of damage and you're just going to lay on hands. So
yeah,
it is what it is on that side. With that, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. So if you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so when all of our new videos come out. If you have any stories playing as a paladin or playing with a paladin, always love to hear all of those campaign stories down below in the comments. Let us know what you guys think, or anything that you guys want to see from us in the future. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.